And welcome to today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Bree. I'm the marketing coordinator here at ESUB. In today's webinar, we're going to be learning all about how to improve your mobile workforce productivity with our very own Justin Weatherby. A couple of housekeeping items before we start. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent out afterwards. If you guys have questions during the webinar, feel free to type them in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll get to as many questions as we can at the end. If for some reason we're unable to answer your question, don't worry, we'll send a follow-up email as soon as possible. So Justin is the Vice President of Customer and Product Engagement at ESUB. He has over 10 years of project management and estimating experience in the construction industry. With previous experience as a construction site supervisor and lead carpenter, Justin is well versed in the ins and outs of the construction industry. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on over to our expert, Justin Weatherby.
Well, Bree, thank you so much for that great introduction. And as Bree mentioned before, guys, we've got so many people in the room today. I'm not able to turn on everybody's microphone. It'll just be complete chaos. But we want to keep this very, very interactive. So as Bree mentioned before, get a little familiar with your GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar controls. There's a chat feature in there that will allow you to ask questions, and I'll do my best to answer those in real time as they come in. Also, we're going to be putting up some polls as well. So use your keyboard and mouse, ask questions, answer the polls. We're going to share the polls with the entire group just so we all know, what other folks in the industry are experiencing and what their thoughts and comments are on some of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll. I want to know who's an ESUB client already and who may be seeing ESUB for the first time. So go ahead and grab your mouse. It's up there on the screen. I'm only going to leave these polls up for a few seconds because I want to make the best use of our time, but give you just enough time to jump in and get them answered. All right, looks like we got just about everybody answered, so I'm going to go ahead and close it and share those results. It looks like we're about a 50-50 split. Half of you folks are using ESUB already. Half of you never seen it before. The good thing is we're going to cover some new stuff to ESUB. We're going to cover some best practices and also talk about best practices and document control in general. Besides whether or not you're an ESUB client, I also want to know what trades are being represented today. I can just see from my list, I see a bunch of folks from California all the way to New York, Canada, and everywhere in between. But I'm just curious, where's our where are our electrical guys? Where are our drywall guys? Who do we got in the specialty trades? Anybody who falls under that specialty and other category, I only get 4 options here. So if you would, jump into that GoToMeeting control and in the chat window, let me know what trade you fall into if you fall into that specialty or other category today. All right, looks like we got about everybody right on point today, so I really appreciate it. Glass and glazing. Yep. We got some glass and glazing guys out there, obviously represented real heavily in the electrical, mechanical, carpentry, finished carpentry. That's near and dear to my heart. We got some drywall, concrete, some framing guys as well. We got some finished folks on the tile and countertop side. So we got a great group here today, so I want to go ahead and just sort of jump right into the presentation. Today, what we're going to be primarily talking about is the breakdown in communication between the office and the field. And this has been a problem since construction ever started, right? But nowadays, with the expansion and adoption of new technology, that we're able to get this data from the field in real time. Now, I don't have a poll question for this, but what's the number one complaint about going to new software? Well, my guys out in the field aren't tech savvy. That excuse might have worked 5 years ago, but it's not an excuse I'm buying today. I like to talk about my dad. He's the oldest, meanest, crustiest contractor there ever was. He hates technology. He calls his computer the Google box. He calls the internet the interwebs. And, he went down kicking and screaming when he had to get a new phone and he couldn't get a flip phone anymore. He had to get an iPhone. Well, Even though he put up this big old fight, you know what? I get a picture of that old man's garden almost every single day. He shows me what he's canning. He's running tomatoes this week. You know, what's he got on the smoker this weekend? So if that old crotchety man can do it, there's no excuses. We can get everybody in on it. And it's something nowadays that's become second nature. Even to those folks who might tell you up front, "Oh, I don't know how to do it." Trust me, they know how to take pictures, they know how to send text messages, and if you can do that, you can use our product. Now, what's happened over the past few decades is this fundamental shift of risk. The risk used to be with the owner, right? If his building didn't get opened on time, he's losing revenue. Well, owner says, I don't want that risk. I'm giving it to the GC. So GC, if you don't deliver my project during this project schedule, then the risk is on you. You have to, make up for that lost time. Well, what did the GC do? Right on down to the subcontractor. Subcontractor, now you've got a schedule. You've got to get this stuff done. And if you don't, there's going to be liquidated damages or delay claims coming your way. Well, who does that end up falling on? It's the foreman out in the field, right? So the foreman, I'll tell you from my experience, the foreman in the field knows when something's going to go wrong before it goes wrong. The problem is they don't document it. They may call you and tell you about it, but what we need is documentation. At the end of the day, we don't get paid for the work we do. We only get paid for the work we document. And with these tighter and tighter construction schedules, GCs are stacking more and more trades on top of each other, and there's certainly situations where we're not going to be productive with our labor because of either unforeseen job site conditions, other trades in the way, or a number of different things that can come up on the job site. So what we're going to talk about today is giving visibility for my project managers back in the office on what's happening out in the field. What we need to do is we need to break down these silos. You've got your field worker in one silo, your project managers in another, accounting and the executives yet in two other silos. And if we have a cloud-based collaborative program like eSub, what we can do is we can break down the walls of those silos and get everybody collaborating under a single umbrella. Now, one thing that we'll get into real heavily today is tracking productivity. We're also going to be making sure that we're not losing profit from undocumented work. And out in the field, there's this fundamental catch-22. The guys are too busy doing the work to document the work. So we really want to give them a tool that's quick and easy for them to use out in the field so that they're not wasting their day documenting their work. They're getting the work done, but still giving us that CYOA tool to cover us on the back end. Again, what it all comes down to is getting that better field to office communication. Before I jump into the product, I got another question for you guys. I want to know who out there today is using a software for scheduling their manpower. What we had back in my office is we had a whiteboard. And, luckily, we probably only had 30 guys, and that whiteboard, was a mess, but that's what we used. And I just want to know out there, hey, what have you guys got in place? Do you need something like this? I got about half the people voted. Let's get that other half in there real quick. That way we can close up this poll and move into the product. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this poll up and share the results with everybody. So it looks like the majority of people don't have it, but they need it. Quarter of the people, they don't have it, but the whiteboard works just fine. And 31% of you folks already have something in place. What I'm going to do is go ahead and pull up on my screen is eSub just came out with a new update that links our back office resource management to our folks out in the field. So what we're looking at here on the left is we're looking at our back office solution, and what we're looking at here on the right is my mobile app. So with that said, if I come back over here to the left, I want to draw to your attention to how we have this laid out. I've got a list of my resources across down here on the left. And what in the world are resources? Well, they're going to essentially be your employees and your equipment. As you can see here, you can sort of break it out into any little bite-sized pieces that you want. and be able to come into the calendar, which we see up here across the top. I'm just looking at a week view, but you can change this to a month view, a year view, an hourly view, just depending on how tight that you need to schedule your folks out in the field. So let's say I have a project coming up and I need to figure out what manpower is available. What you can see real clearly is my first group is pretty well booked. They're pretty booked solid. So who's available? Well, I got Joe. He's available. So what I'll do is I need to schedule him for Monday. I'll go ahead and double click for Joe on Monday. Pick which project he's going to go to. He's going to be working on the Jefferson High School. What is he going to be doing? Well, I need him to do an install of rough-in. Well, when do I need him doing that? Well, maybe it's not just Monday. Maybe it's Monday through Friday. I can go ahead and schedule him like that. This interface is very intuitive. You can click and drag these events. So let's say, hey, you know what? I need to shuffle some folks around. Joe's out sick. I need Chris to jump in on this. Hey, maybe I need to change my durations up. I can go ahead and shorten or lengthen those durations as needed. I could grab one event, put it to somebody else, and basically have this free-flowing collaborative board where I have great visibility on who I have scheduled and what they need to do. Now, I'm going to switch over from the back office on the left to my field worker out here on the right. The update now allows this resource management from the back office to flow to my folks via the ESUB time app. Here, they'll be able to see where they're working. So, hey, from 7 a.m. to 4:30, I'm supposed to be at the Northern High. I have an icon here for the map of the job location. If I click on this, what it's going to do, it's going to open it up in my preferred navigation app, whether that's Google or Apple Maps, something like that. So if I'm unfamiliar with the job site or how to get from the supply house to the job site, I can just go ahead and click on this and I'll automatically start navigating. Built into this app as well, allows me to punch in and punch out for the day. So if I'm scheduled at Northern High School, I can go ahead and hit the start button. I can select what code I'm punching into. I'm doing rough-in, and it'll go ahead and clock me in to that. This will allow an individual on his phone to go ahead and punch in and punch out, view his schedule, view his timesheets, approve and sign his timesheets once that's all been recorded. Now, capturing time, I think, is really important. And I've got a question for you guys. What's your biggest risk to profit out here on the job site? Is it labor? Is it maybe your material costs? Is it having equipment on the site too long? Is there some sort of overhead cost that really plays into this? Or does it fall into that, the other category? If it falls into the other category and you've got something to add there, go ahead and throw that in. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but at this point, we have the first time in history 100% consensus on an answer across multiple trades across the country. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll before someone realizes what I'm putting down and goes and messes this up for us. And I'll share this with everybody. 100% of you guys out there, labor is your biggest risk to profit out on the job. Now, we talked about our punch in, punch out app, but we've got another app that allows my folks out in the field to fill out daily reports. ESUB has a claims consulting background, and that claims consulting background has told us one thing, that your daily report is your #1 profit protection tool. So over here on my mobile device, I've got our ESUB Fieldworks app. I've already selected which project I'm working on. I'm working on the Eastgate Hilton project, and I'll go ahead and click on Daily Report. Here's a list of the daily reports that I've already filled out, but we're going to fill out and talk about best practices on our daily reports. So what I've got up over here on the left is a completed daily report. And what happens is in real time, as my folks are filling this out from their mobile device, it's automatically being transferred up to my system in the cloud, which will allow this daily report to be filled out in real time. Now, these functions that we're going through are going to work for my folks out in the field, whether or not they have a internet connection. So if I don't have a cell signal, I can still fill out my daily report, and this daily report will automatically be uploaded back to the office. Now, again, the further away from the event the documentation happens, the less accurate it becomes. So whenever there's an event on the job site, there's a trade in the way, somebody damaged our material shipment, the unforeseen job site location, there's some sort of weather impact, I don't want my folks filling out daily reports at the end of the week. I want them filling them not even out at the end of the day, but during the day. So I've got my mobile app here. Let's say I got to make some phone calls. I do that. I can pop it back open. It's right where I left off. And we're going to jump into the comment section of the daily report. Notice that this is my comment section over here as it appears on the finished daily report. And I have up to 8 different categories that I can utilize for comments. In general, I want to know what work you performed, what problems you ran into, and what the heck did you give away for free. So before I jump into those comments, we know that labor is the biggest risk to our profit, but what has the biggest impact to the productive use of our labor? If I missed something on this list, drop it in the comment section. I'd be happy to share that with the team. But jump in on the poll. Where's that impact of the productive use of our labor coming from? Is it delays? Is it changing scope? Is it verbal directives that aren't documented, that are tough to get paid on? Is it unforeseen job site conditions? Hey, we show up and the beam was supposed to be here, but it's not. It's on the other side. All right, jump in real quick on these polls. That way I can get them closed and get them moved on. We got about 75% of the folks creeping up to 80. I'll go ahead and give you guys just another second for the folks who haven't voted yet to get your vote in. And we'll go ahead and wrap this up and share the results with the team. Delays and disruptions, right, of all sorts, by far the leader. Changing scope comes in there, as well as unforeseen job site conditions and verbal directives. Again, use that chat option if you guys have some other things. I'd love to share those with the team that come up on the job site that maybe didn't show up here in the drop down. Now, so when we're talking about delays and disruptions, that's going to come into, my scheduling and coordination issues here within my comment section. Anytime I'm using the mobile app, I can utilize the talk to type feature to fill this out. Began work on the east side of the building. There was another trade in the way. We had to mobilize over to the west side of the building. And again, we want them filling these out in real time. What work did we perform today? 7:30 a.m., we showed up on the job site. We completed the rough-in on floor 1 and began the rough-in on floor 2. Now, one other thing on this comment section before I move on, we know as a subcontractor, you may have to provide these daily reports to people outside of your company. So down here at the bottom, we have a spot for internal comments. These internal comments by default are not printed when you go to print or email this document out. That way you have a two-way facing daily report, one for the GC and one that you guys can keep for yourselves. So we'll go ahead and click on internal comments. This general contractor has multiple trades stacked on top of each other. We'll never get anything done on this job. Again, those are internal comments. All right, perfect. So I'm going to move on from my comment section here in this daily report, and we're going to get into some of the field labor productivity and take a look at some of those reports that we can capture there. But before I do, I had a sort of a general question on daily reports. I want to know, how often are these getting filled out? Are they getting filled out on every job every day? We only doing them when the GC required? Maybe. Who knows? Right? They're not centralized. The folks are supposed to be filling them out on paper. What I'll tell you right now is with those paper daily reports, I had a 3-ring binder in my truck, 100 blank daily reports. Be honest with you, I didn't fill those out every single day. Sometimes I'd fill 2 or 3 out at the end of the week for days that I missed. But don't worry, I'm a criminal mastermind. I use 2 different color pens so my project manager wouldn't know. If he ever even saw these things, which just ended up in a storage box somewhere, down with the storage company at the end of the job. All right. Looks like we got just about everybody on this poll. I'll go ahead and close this and share the results. It's pretty well split. I guess the biggest one out there is they should be. But with eSub, I'd like to show you guys that as they're filling out these daily reports, that this information is automatically populating in real time what we call our corporate overview. So what we're able to see is a single page within eSub that shows me all of my daily reports across all of my projects. So if I'm a project manager who's managing 5 different projects, I have available to me what we call corporate management. If you're an eSub user, you'll find that under the Start menu, Start Corporate Management, and then go to Construction Documents Daily Reports. This is a page within eSub that I see a lot of folks bookmarking. I can see who's filling out the daily reports and who isn't, who's giving me detailed information like this, and who's just recording time. So before we get into some more of the back office reporting, let's talk about capturing time from my folks out in the field. I have 3 main ways within eSub I can capture time. I can have an individual punch in and punch out from his mobile device, like we see here. So I'll go ahead and punch out. Have I been injured? If I say yes, it'll make me put in a comment. How was I injured? Done broke my arm. And it'll flag me in the back office, and we'll see what that looks like in just a minute. The other way I can track time, or one of the other 2 ways I can track time, is maybe not from my personal device, but maybe from a kiosk. Let me bring this up here. So I can set a kiosk up on the job where the individuals see their name across the left, and I can come in here, put in my PIN, and then punch in and punch out, view my timesheets, see if where I'm scheduled for the next day, etc. So the first 2 options, the guys can punch in and punch out from their phone. When they punch in and punch out for their phone, it captures their GPS location. They can do comments back and forth to the office around those time entries, or I can set up a kiosk on the job and have these individuals punch in. Now, some of my folks say, Justin, I don't want my individuals punching in and punching out. I want my foreman recording time. And that's the tried and true way, and that's done right here on my daily report. So we talked about the comments section of my daily report. Now we'll get into the crew section of this daily. So I'll go ahead and click on crews. And what the heck is a crew? Well, it's just a group of people working under a certain cost code. So what were we doing? We were doing install. Who was doing install? I had Larry, Jay, and Matt. Maybe Ryan, Brandon, and Daniel. They put in 8 hours. How many units did they install? This is an optional field within eSub for tracking unit productivity. You have estimated units per hour. Thus, if we're recording it here, you'll end up with actual units per hour. So how many units did we install? Now, this next section here within eSub can be the most important part. And again, this is coming from our claims consulting background. While my guys get paid for a full 8 hours, there may have been some of those 8 hours that were unproductive. And this, even if my folks today who are using daily reports, only a small percentage of them are going to this extra step to track hours lost. And these hours lost, I'll show you in just a moment, populate a separate report, and we'll talk about a little bit how I see folks currently utilizing those. So I'm going to say we lost 1 hour. Keep in mind, that's 1 hour for each person. So that's actually a total of 3 hours that were lost that day. If I try to save this, eSub throughout the product has these guardrails for promoting best practices. So if you lost an hour, you need to tell me why you lost that hour. Why did we lose the hour? There was another trade in the way. I can go ahead and save this. If I had another crew working under another cost code, I could add them. If I needed to adjust somebody's time, I could just click on their record, and let's say they didn't work 8 hours, they worked 6 hours, the record. And then down here at the bottom, I get a grand total in case my guys are spread off across multiple cost codes, making sure they got their full hours recorded. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these next couple sections within our daily report, but I am going to talk to them. We can also track subcontractors, equipment, and material on our dailies. These all have databases that can be populated. The materials you can either pick from a database or just key those in freehand and essentially track on your daily, hey, what subcontractors were on the job, what equipment did we have, and what materials were used on the job site. Now, as I scroll down this page, you get a little preview of what I'm going to go to next, which is what we call our field notes. Our field notes are photos that are being taken out from my folks out in the field. Now, before I get into those photos, I'm going to step back real quick on the time. I want to know from you folks out there today, how are you guys currently recording time from your folks out in the field? If you're saying a time card app, I hope it's eSub for the folks who are using eSub. Are those phone calls coming back in? Are those paper timesheets? Just curious, kind of share with the group, how far along in this process are we? All right, we're going to go ahead and close this poll and share the results. It's about a 50-50 split between paper timesheets and a time card app. For those eSub clients, I hope you're taking advantage of our time card solution. As our folks are filling out those time cards in the back office, on the mobile app, in the back office, I end up with timesheets for my guys. And a timesheet is going to include all the projects they worked on and show you the totals at a high level, both per day and per week. If they were injured, we would have that injury flag. If there's any comments, we'll have that comments flag. If they were out of range when they punched in or punched out, it'll have that location flagged. I'll go ahead and click on Jay's records here. And if I wanted to see those in more detail, it'll break out day by day, cost code by cost code, what they're working on. If I wanted to, I could click on an individual entry and then make any edits that are needed to from that and save that. Once the time looks good for the week, I can select who I want to approve the time cards for and approve that time. Once it's been approved, it'll be available for export into your accounting package. Again, guys, I'm happy to answer any questions on any of these topics as we go through there. So I went ahead and I hid that poll, and this is what those time cards look like from the back office. You can expand those records as needed and go ahead and edit and approve those and move those through the process. So with that said, jumping back to our daily report, the last piece of this I want to touch on is going to be our photos from the field. I want to know out there today, are your guys taking job site condition photos? And if so, are those making their way back to the office? All right, looks like we got just about everybody who to answer that question. So we'll go ahead and close that poll, share the results. Some folks already have a centralized repository, but the majority of folks either fall into the no or they're not sent to the office. So I'll go ahead and hide this. And within my daily report, I can go ahead and take photos and have those stapled behind my daily. So I'll go ahead and click on the camera. I can snap a photo of my job site. Once I snap that photo, I can annotate the image because 6 months later, I'm going to have no idea what I'm looking at. I could take multiple pictures if I need to. And again, if I try to save this, eSub is not going to allow me to save this without putting some sort of text in. What's so nice about eSub compared to like a PDF daily report that your folks might be filling out is all of this information that I've put in here from the comments on the dailies to the hours to these field photos are what we call structured data. ESUB's really big on data. This information doesn't just flow into a black hole, it flows into a database. And because it's stored within a database, everything that I type in here is searchable. There was a flood on the first floor, hashtag delay. And I can go ahead and search by any of my keywords in there. And besides being stapled behind my daily report with my logo and letterhead, the day and time the photo was taken, and then ultimately who took the photo, this information is going to flow up into our corporate management as well. We've got those corporate field notes, much like our corporate daily reports that we talked about earlier, that show me all the pictures across all of the jobs that I manage in a centralized location. Now, because we're recording time on our daily report, we're going to get some great labor productivity reports that I want to draw your attention to. Now, this is our one of our main labor productivity reports, and what we're going to be focusing on is we're going to be focusing on the total hours budgeted versus what hours we've used. Now, at a duration of your choosing, the foreman or the project manager then can come in and fill out his percent complete. Based on his percent complete that he's filled out, ESUB's going to calculate how many more hours it's going to take to finish this item of the job and your level of efficiency. This will help if you have a separate estimating and project management department. What I've seen in some companies, including the ones I've worked for, the estimators estimate the projects, the project managers run the projects. And what happens is they both kind of point their fingers at each other. And this allows them to have a fact-based discussion across multiple projects of, how are we at performing against our estimates. Also, this gives our project manager insight. So if he needs to make any changes to our labor workforce, he has this information in real time, so he can go ahead and make those changes. Another report that I want to draw your attention to that we spoke about is that lost hours report. And that lost hours report is going to aggregate all of the time that was unproductive on the job to a single report within ESUB. And what I see a lot of my folks doing with this information, number one, is pushing back against back charges, right? I don't know what it is about a GC, but he loves to try to hit us with back charges. This will help mitigate any risk associated with that. Also, I see folks utilizing this information to negotiate change orders that they already have submitted, right? Hey, Mr. GC, I appreciate you only paying me 50 cents a dollar on this change order. And if that's going to be the case, then I have, in this project, 197 unproductive hours that I'll have to bill you for. Oh, okay. You want to negotiate a little closer to that 100% mark? Okay, perfect. I'll just keep these to myself. Or some folks, they go right after these hours and get paid for them. But at the end of the day, what we're looking at is we don't get paid for the work we do. We only get paid for the work we document. So I hope today we've given the folks who haven't seen ESUB before kind of a overall of just our field to office communication. ESUB also provides document control for RFIs and change orders and submittals and POs, pay applications as well. And for our folks who are already ESUB clients, I hope that you guys can take advantage of our new scheduling tool and also take your documentation to the next level. It's always a metered rollout. Hey, we got the guys filling out daily reports. That's one hurdle. But now that they're filling them out, let's get the most detailed information possible and have them recording those hours lost so that us as a project management team have the information that we need to make the most money and the most profit on our jobs. I'll go ahead and open it up. If there are any questions, you go ahead and use that GoToMeeting controls in the chat window and drop in any questions you have. I'll be happy to answer those. For any of our current customers, you can email clientsuccess@esub.com. to get a hold of your account manager if you've got any questions or want a deeper dive on our resource management. You could also call our 1-800 number, extension 2. If you're not an eSub customer, send those emails to info@esub.com. Same 1-800 number, extension 1 will get you somebody who can take you through a demonstration of the product and answer any of your questions. So Debbie asks if we can create our own cost coding system within eSub. eSub is completely flexible to match your work breakdown structure. So Debbie, absolutely, you can create your own cost code structure. We also have levels above the cost code that we call phases. So if you break your job up into different phases or maybe even different buildings or floors within the buildings, you can have that level of hierarchy there as well. Mike has a very good question that I think is worth doubling back to. Mike wants to know, can I share documents with my folks out in the field? So within our mobile app, we have a section called Project Files. And if I'm back in the office, I have a section up here at the top called Files. And there's two types of files. There's project-specific files or company-wide files. And if I go into project files, I'm able to create my own hierarchy as far as file folders go. And these file folders are created and automatically applied to all of my new projects. Now, you can control which user groups have access to which file folders. So maybe you only want the PMs to have access to the contracts, but the approved submittals, you may want your folks out in the field to have access to those. All you need to do is go ahead and upload that file and drag it into here, pick which folder you want it to go to, and then on my mobile app, I'll see the folders that I've been given access to, and then be able to take a look at any of the files within there. Of course, you'll have your sort of pinch to zoom capability. And while it doesn't fall into exactly the content we look to cover today, eSub also has a new enhancement that I think ties very well into these files that I want to talk about. Today, newly available to you folks is, let's say you've got an RFI, or you know what, I'm going to use the example of a submittal. I have a submittal that I've been tracking throughout its life cycle, and this submittal has now been completely approved and is ready to be built off of. What I can do with any document in eSub is I can push it to those file folders. So I don't want my foreman coming into the submittal log because it's kind of busy. I have stuff that's revise and resubmit. I have stuff approved as noted. The only thing I want my foreman to have access to is the approved submittals. So what I can do is I can hit this PDF button, and instead of downloading this PDF, I can add it to eSub files. And what does that mean? That means I pick which folder I want it to go to, and again, that will go ahead and show up not just on the web, but on my mobile device as well within those folders. So any document in eSub, you can now push to these file folders, which means that you can now attach RFIs to, let's say, change orders. And you can attach POs to change orders. You could attach, whatever you need to your submittals or your purchase orders. Any of my documents in eSub, once I push them to a file folder, can then be attached to any other document in eSub. Sean asks, is the resource management schedule viewable on the Fieldworks app? The resource schedule is not available on the Fieldworks app. It's going to be available on the eSub Time app. And the reason for that is it's tied to an individual, right? So I'm scheduling multiple individuals, and they each have their own unique schedule. So those schedules will be available down here at the bottom. You'll see my schedule and be able to see where I have been scheduled for the day. Jody asked, can the timesheets be connected with an accounting software? Absolutely. In general, Jody, if your accounting software can accept an import of time, ESUB can produce a example or a mapped output that matches the input of your accounting package. Jody, if you want to tell me which accounting package you use, I could give you a little bit more detail. Mike wants to know if there's any size limitations on those files that we're uploading. There's no size limitation on the files, but you've got to be respectful of the device. If you upload a 500 megabyte file and expect your guy in the field to be able to download that, it might take them a while. So we definitely want you to try to break those up into more bite-sized pieces. Debbie says, so Jody uses Computer Ease. Jody, I just had a call earlier this week with one of our current clients that uses Computer Ease. Absolutely, we can import time to Computer Ease. We're very familiar with how to do that. QuickBooks, Debbie asked about QuickBooks. We're able to import time to QuickBooks, absolutely, but also with QuickBooks, we can import purchase orders and pay applications from ESUB to QuickBooks. Now, Debbie, this only applies to QuickBooks Desktop. So, Debbie, let me know if you're using QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. I hope the yes means you're using QuickBooks Desktop, Debbie. Mike asked about importing into Dynamics. I assume you mean Microsoft Great Plains. There's a few different add-ons with Dynamics that sit on top of it. I'm struggling at the moment. I think a popular one's called Key to Act. But Mike, in general, if they can accept an import file, then we can produce an export file. I'm just scrolling through the questions, make sure I haven't missed any that I can answer on the call. Michael has a comment that's I think worth sharing with the team. I think Michael may be an ESUB user, and he says that the hours lost is the single greatest function in ESUB. And Michael, I would not disagree. It is certainly one of the most powerful when it comes to tracking those unproductive hours on the job site. Guys, I don't see any other questions popping in. So I'll go ahead and throw our contact information back up on the page. I'll hang around for another minute or two if any questions do come in. But I really want to thank you guys for your time today. I think we made productive use of it. If you've got any other questions that we weren't able to get to, we'll follow up with those directly via email, or you can go ahead and reach out to us, either client success at ESUB if you're a current client, or info at ESUB if you're looking to get more information about ESUB.
Thanks so much, Justin. What an awesome webinar. We have this recorded and we're going to be sending it out later today. Again, if you guys have any additional questions, please feel free to email in. Thanks so much everyone.
Yep, take care, everyone. Thanks so much for your time.